So I'm Father Chris Fabre. I'm a Maronite Catholic Priest. The Maronite Rite of the Catholic Church is the church I serve as a priest. And I serve in Chief Mission Officer for the Providence Newberg Hospital in Newberg, Oregon.
I'm Scott Acord. I work for the Institute for Human Caring, and I'm here with my colleague, Father Christopher. I would love for you to tell me a little bit about what drew you to the priesthood.
So I was raised, as they say, a cradle Catholic. I was actually raised in the Roman Rite faith because my maternal and paternal grandparents were also cradle Catholics. One was Irish. My mom's side of the family were Donovans from Ireland. My other grandparents were Czech Catholics. What I discovered in my own life was that the church is larger than that. If you think about Christianity, it started in the Middle East, Jesus in the first century. What happened to the Catholics that were in Jerusalem, for example? What happened to the Catholics that were in the rest of the Roman Empire? I actually, in my practice of dentistry, happened upon a Maronite church because of some work I was doing with a coworker, a woman nurse who was Lebanese, and I went to her church with her. The Maronites are basically Christians that are from Syria and Lebanon, and so they have a whole different tradition of understanding a little different spirituality. They believe the same things that Roman Catholics believe. The way that we do business, the way that we operate is a little different. Like, for example, one major difference is the Maronites have married priests. In Lebanon and Syria, 80% of the parish priests are married.
You mentioned something about being a dentist.
So I was a dentist, graduated from dental school. I was hoping to be an oral surgeon and got partially through that program and realized it wasn't for me. And that happened in the late 80s, early 90s when the AIDS epidemic was kind of ravishing the world. And many of my friends from college, not many, but a few important friends were infected with HIV, and I watched their sad journeys and just realized the plight of people trying to get dental care at that period. I don't know if you remember that period, but there was a moment where people were just very frightened of people with HIV. If there was a patient in my waiting room who was HIV positive, all the other patients in my waiting room would know that they were HIV positive because they had a specific look. So there was this kind of an emaciated look that people had. And long story short, in my career, I worked for a big group dental center and was trying to do good on the side with a couple of the people who worked under me, and it kind of outpaced our ability to do that. So we kind of started a volunteer clinic. I ended up leading those efforts, mainly because my boss at the time made me choose. He's like, you can't be seeing HIV patients in this practice, so you're gonna have to choose. And then I won some award from a local TV station, and I got a lot of press and lost a lot of patients at the big practice. So ended up running an AIDS dental clinic for about 10 years and then working for that same clinic for another 10 years. So 20 years I practiced dentistry. And during that time, as I mentioned, I found the Maronite Church, and it was around some losses that I had had in my own life. Lost my parents in my late 30s, early 40s, and my brother as well. How I ended up in the Maronite Church was it was a priest, and it was my fascination with the Maronite Rite. The last 10 years of my practice, while I still worked at this Sansing clinic, I was also involved in a couple of efforts with the city and county as they looked at how to deal with HIV patients, but also how the city would care for its indigent patients. So that doctor that I talked about going to her church, she and I served on a city-county commission that was looking at how we could do better. I had faculties to go into the jails because so many of our patients were incarcerated. And so then we worked in partnership with homeless agencies to provide care to them.
You wrapped up your dental career. Why?
I don't know. It just felt like that chapter was coming to a close when the advent of antiretroviral therapy. I don't want to say HIV is cured. It's a manageable disease. And it felt like a war when I first joined it. It was guerrilla warfare. It was in the streets trying to save people. I remember being involved in ACT UP actions and things to kind of bring attention. So it just felt like that period was over. And as I mentioned, I had sustained my own losses. I was in my late 40s kind of thinking, okay, what's my next career? Do I start a private practice? I was thinking about going back for a specialty in oral facial pain or pathology. because I did a lot of that work as part of being HIV provider. I was an adjunct faculty member at the dental school. So I was trying to discern those things. But I really think it was a God thing. It was this one priest. It was a group of people at that parish. It was this priest saying, have you ever thought about being a priest? And me saying, heck no. There's no way. Why would I want to do that? And just for practical things, I would be terrified to stand up in front of people. I could give a talk about immunosuppressed patients, but if I had to stand up, like he asked me to start helping him on the altar, I just would get so anxious. I was like, how could I stand up and say all those prayers and preach? And then just my own sense of unworthiness. I'm not good enough to be a priest. But just the repetitive call of the church through this priest and through the bishop, and then a period of discernment where I said, well, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm not sure I'm going to do this, but I'll start walking that way. So at each step, I just would be discerning and saying, God, is this kind of what you wanted to do? Is that still small voice inside my head just me and my ego telling me to do something, or is that really what God wants me to do? And then once I kind of had that process, once I kind of learned to live my life that way, it made more sense to move into this.